Welcome back to the podcast and to your latest installment of Two Blues Tuesday, where I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. C Money Picks, to talk all things Chelsea. This is our weekly roundup, but this week we're not just talking about Chelsea, not just talking about Premier League. We've had to bring this one out a little bit early. It's now a Two Blues Monday because the Ballon d'Or is happening. I think it might even be as we speak. The Ballon d'Or is about to be drawn. There are two or three clear front runners, but we are going to be discussing the two best options who we think will be claiming the Ballon d'Or 2025 for tonight. But before we get into that, obviously make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'd be remiss, as much as we want to move on, and we do have another game tomorrow night in the EFL Cup against Lincoln, League One Lincoln. Charms, we'd be remiss if we didn't at least touch on Manchester United. We haven't had a chance to discuss it in full detail. I don't know how much of the match you were able to see. Hopefully, if you know, I'm praying you were at work. I'm praying this is the one weekend you weren't able to watch it. At least not that first 45. But give me your thoughts on, a disastrous defeat for Chelsea.
Yes. It's just it's over frustrating. The hope that I had going into this game, I thought was a fixture that Manchester United, who have looked out of sorts for however long they have now, the last 12, 18, 24 months, just don't look like the Manchester United of old. We're getting used to this new version of Manchester United being that sort of mid-table club, kind of, if you will. I was going in there expecting nothing short of 3 points. I was at work, but I was like the KP were watching it, and when I went in after 3, 4 minutes to see what was going on, I've seen there being checks going on. I'm thinking, what's happening? And then I see the challenge, and I just see Robert Sanchez just absolutely obliterate someone going forward. So I don't understand it. I think that a lot of people who are clamoring about the Maresca out thing, which is a narrative that I have heard an awful lot of since that game's taken place, I don't understand it. It really frustrates me, the fickle nature of a lot of the fans at Chelsea. And I think that you can't blame a manager for wanting to be a little bit more defensively astute when you've just lost your goalkeeper. And if you had to pick a weakness in Manchester United's side, it's probably their back line. So I wouldn't have had a problem with breaking them down regardless of having 10 men. I just think you got to do what you got to do from a defensive standpoint. So frustrating performance. We kick into life just a little bit too late. We've said that multiple times on this show. And yeah, I don't think there's anyone to blame bar Robert Sanchez. I'm really worried about Cole Palmer. Another little niggling injury coming off so early. It's frustrating. Assuming that he's pulled his groin. Very, very irritating. 90 minutes. All in. I don't think there was really many positives that you could draw from that game. I even thought team selection was a little bit questionable to some degree. It's probably the only criticism I'll have on Maresca.
What would you have changed in the team selection?
I would have had Garnacho in there from get-go. I would have had him running the line. He knows the club inside and out. He knows their weaknesses. I think that was an advantage that we just refused to play on. And yeah, I think that's, to me, I think it's a hard point to disagree with. If you're going to play a team side against Manchester United after poaching someone
I
who's
disagree.
been, I don't understand that. I don't understand that because I feel like although Garnacho, he's shown life. I think that he's looked good since he's been there, and he knows the club inside and out. He knows how to exploit a hole in Manchester United. It would have been, honestly, first three names on the team sheet.
I feel like he's sent you this prep, bruv, because he would be nowhere near. I feel like his ego, his attitude, I would have no interest. I feel like he would be more detrimental, if anything, to Chelsea going forward. I feel like defenders would definitely have the mark of him. I think in those conditions, playing up against Harry Maguire, De Ligt, they've got an opportunity to absolutely smash you. So I 100% would have got. I think the lineup. The only thing I maybe would have changed was at the back. I think Tosin instead of Fofana. But going forward, I thought Esteval, Neto. I mean, Esteval, I don't know if you saw my video, but I thought Esteval was understandable to bring him off. He's going to be the first one to be sacrificed, unfortunately. But you're going to have to sacrifice someone to bring on a goalkeeper. Pedro Neto was the one that threw me. And then obviously, I think the Cole Palmer substitute didn't help because it was an injury. It was unprecedented. I don't think he would have taken Neto off had he known Palmer was going to come off in the next 10 minutes. Just on that very quickly as well, I don't know how much news there is out there. I've seen an excerpt from an Enzo Maresca interview today saying that the medical team today was the first time that surgery was suggested or brought up in conversation. Whether we take that as a it's a good, whether we take that as a positive, being he hasn't, it hasn't even been on the table until now, or whether we look at it as the medical team have done everything that they can to prevent this niggle coming back. It does seem like, and yeah, you're right. It was his groin. He was holding a nice pack. So I think Simon Phillips was the one that said also he's been injured since the Club World Cup. He's taken pain injections to negate the pain. But yeah, I think, I mean, if Cole Palmer does go out for an extended period of time, even with the players that we've bought in, is it going to be as detrimental as it was last year?
I mean, probably. I mean, we know how much he brings to that starting lineup. We know how much he brings to Chelsea, how important he is for us going forward. We've said it, since 3 games into his Chelsea tenure that this guy is the first name on the team sheet. He has to be in there. He just brings too much. It is a real shame. We've seen what life is like without Cole Palmer, and I prefer it with him in it. Surgery is a worrying thing. I don't like the concept of him being out for a couple of months, particularly heading into December right now, when the league is still warming up. The long, hard, arduous weeks of 2 games every single week for a month, 2, 3 months in a row is not yet thrust upon us. Obviously, as you said, we do have the EFL Cup. The Premier League is back in action. They will be playing quite a few games as of now, especially with the Champions League being back. But when it comes to that back end of the season, when it comes to January, February, March, April, we need Palmer in the lineup. So if we're going to get him out and got to get surgery, it's got to be now. But obviously, a situation which I do fear has kind of been warning that it's around the corner for quite some time. And now that it is thrust upon us with him being injured so early. I mean, listen, if it was something small, if it was something where he could have played through it, I have all the confidence in the world that Palmer would have just soldiered on through it. I mean, as you said, he's been doing his very best. The medical team have been doing their very best to try and keep him as fit as they can and try and keep him kicking on. But if there's ever going to be a time to go get him, medically checked and put down the hard labour, I'd rather it happen now than he continues to play through it and November, December comes and it's even worse and he's out for even longer through an even more important period of the year. So just an unfortunate series of events. Simple.
Yeah, and I don't know what the extent of it is, but rumours coming out today that Noni Madueke has suffered an extended injury. It's not quite an ACL, but it seems like a lot of those Chelsea players that played in the World Cup are picking up injuries. And whether we can say it's because of the Club World Cup or lack of pre-season, I don't know. But it does seem like they are starting to drop like flies. And I mean, it's been a few weeks since we've even seen players like Lavia. I mean, these guys aren't even in the conversation anymore. It's got to a point where I'm not surprised, but I think Lavia was on the bench at the weekend. But I'm not surprised when these guys don't get minutes because it seems like Chelsea's injury list is always a minimum of 6, 7 players. But looking ahead, and we'll do this chronologically because obviously we've covered last week. I don't even want to speak about the Bayern game. I've shed enough emotion, shed enough tears over that game to last the entirety of the Champions League campaign. But before we look ahead to tomorrow's game against Lincoln, let's make the meat and two veg of this episode the Ballon d'Or. Now, I said at the start there were kind of 2 players that were front runners. I think there are probably 4 or 5. Pedri might be in there with the shout, but the 2 obvious, and I think the bookies' favourites as well by a country mile. Oh, Rafinha as well is the other one who's in with a shout. But the 2 that are front runners are obviously Starboy Lamine Yamal from Barcelona, and then Ousmane Dembele. Redemption year, redemption arc, well and truly reached the potential that everybody thought he would reach at Borussia Dortmund at Barcelona 5 years ago. It's taken way too long, but I'm incredibly happy for Ousmane Dembele that he's managed to overcome, the difficulties that he has in the past seasons. Just off the base of it, before we kind of go into stats importance, real deep analysis. But what's your kind of opinion of those 2, 3 players? How do you rank their years?
Well, I mean, I think that the other one is Mo Salah as well. I think that that's a player who should definitely be in the conversation. I think that what he was been able to do in the Premier League last season was just absolutely phenomenal at his ripe age. Obviously, the one thing that does hold him back is that lack of a successful Champions League campaign, which I feel like would have capstoned it and almost confirmed it for him.
Also, nobody enjoys watching Salah play football.
They like to look at stats though, and a lot of people I feel like they talk about football but they don't watch it, and I feel like they're happy to get their FPL ticking and say that this player deserves this and that, whereas those other 2 players, like I've been in 2 minds. about which one of Dembele and Yamal should be the one that wins it. I think that they are, as you said, clear odds-on favourites to go ahead and do it. I think that both of them have their own sort of reasons why. I think Dembele's is probably in the more traditional sense of why you should win it, and Yamal's a little bit more free flow when you actually look at like the wow factor. I think that he's probably in front of it.
What do you think is the most? Because we've had kind of all sorts of discussions. Obviously, Haaland broke every single score and record possible, and still didn't win the Ballon d'Or. We've had players like Lionel Messi win the Ballon d'Or on not necessarily poor stat years, but poorer stat years than other people. So, what do you think is the most important factor in winning the Ballon d'Or?
I think if we're going to be totally honest, I think that there is a little bit of like biases towards it about, and sort of there are sort of hidden agendas which they like to propulse to the front. I think that that's helped Lionel Messi win a couple extra, to be totally honest, in years where there were clearly players who had done more, particularly World Cup years. Um, for me, I think that a big thing is the Champions League compared to how you are domestically. I think that the UEFA competition is a big deal when it comes to selecting who is the best player in the world, how far you get if you win it, and that's going to help Ousmane Dembele's case once again. Treble winner. I think that will. I know that the French league is a little bit up and dry. It's kind of just PSG in there with any form of a chance. But end of the day, going in and doing it and slapping teams 4-3-0 every week and looking good while doing it. Club World Cup Championship, if they had won that, I feel like it would have been a no-brainer who's going to win it. I feel like pinging that one back a little bit. It does give Yamal the opportunity to have his name in the hat, particularly just based on mostly on performances. And if we're being realistic, marketability. The guy's 17 years old, and the numbers that he's putting up, the ability that he's showing at his age, it's absolutely insane. This is the closest thing we've had to Lionel Messi since Lionel Messi, and it's a bold claim, but realistically, it's not too far from the truth. I watched him turn England on their heads alongside Nico Williams in the final of the Euros last year, and as hard of a watch as that was from an Englishman's perspective. As a neutral football fan, like I spoke to many, they were just so in shock by the ability that this kid's got at such a young age. So, yeah, I think that once again, it's just those two at the front.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. And I think, yeah, much in line with you. I think that the two main things, obviously, Champions League, in which both of them excelled. And I think Yamal did some sensational things. I think he's the youngest player ever to score an assist in either a Champions League game or a knockout game. I'm not quite sure which it is. But Dembele, 15 matches in the Champions League, 8 goals, 6 assists, won the Champions League Player of the Season, won the Champions League trophy. And I do feel like with Lamine Yamal, obviously everyone gives him his props because of his age, but I do feel like people, and I don't think overhype is the right word because he is as good as most people say he is. However, I do think because of his age, people get ahead of himself and people assume how many times have we seen Golden Boy, Copper, whatever the thing's called? I think he should win that for sure. At 18 years old, I don't think you should it should be kind of an unwritten rule that until you're 22, 23, you can't be in the conversation for the best player in the world because I just feel like, and how many times have I said on this channel, at 18 years old, you're not developed as a man. You're a teenager. Like it's a completely different game that you're playing. And you look at and like we said, Yamal's been a poster boy as an agenda, but you look at some of the reasons that people have been putting forward that he should win the Ballon d'Or. He also completed 138 successful dribbles, more than any other player in Europe's top leagues, and was recognised as La Liga's best under 23 player. Fantastic. Is this trophy for the best under 23 player? No. Is this trophy for the best dribbler? No. I think that, what the importance of a player in the team, of course, like, you look at Rodri, I think that's why he won. That was a year where it wasn't based on stats. It was about what he did and as an individual, how he elevated that team. And I think while Lamine Yamal is the poster boy, is the star boy for Barcelona, I don't see as someone see him. I see him as someone who changes the game. Rather, he is a game changer. He's a game winner, but he's not somebody at 18 years old, you don't have the mentality to pull the old boys through a 1-0 loss to Getafe, backs against the wall. You've got to go in and score a last minute. I just feel like that for the trials and tribulations that he's been through, Ousmane Dembele has had one of the most sensational individual years of football I think I've ever seen. We talk about him in terms of stats up there with players like Mo Salah, but this is a guy that you loved, and I'm look, I take it with a pinch of salt when I say nobody enjoys to watch Salah because obviously I'm being facetious, and he is an incredibly good footballer. But you look at Esteval Willian, how he gets the crowd animated, how he just as soon as he gets the ball, everyone's on their feet. I get that feeling, and fair enough, Yamal's got it too. This isn't something that Dembele's got over Yamal, but I do just feel like in terms of where he is right now from Lamine Yamal, with all due respect, I'm going to need to see that for at least another year before I'm starting to say this is the best player in the world. Because players like Palmer, Caicedo, have been doing it for a year and a half, 2 years now. I could argue that they've got as much right to win the Ballon d'Or as Lamine Yamal.
Yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, like I think that the main difference between players listed like that who are clearly been world class, like Moises Caicedo and I think that it is that eye test. I think that is sort of like the fun, the fun side of it. And I know that that can be dismantled with the whole argument of Rodri's Ballon d'Or. I think that once again, Rodri's Ballon d'Or heavily influenced by agenda, heavily influenced by the success of Manchester City and his importance, the amount of games he had played during that period. And then, when you're looking at actually selecting a winner for this year, as you said, like, listen, Yamal has done so many things that have been incredible and really have been exciting to watch, and he does make you like watch the game with like that edge of the seat mentality of something's about to happen. But Dembele's done that in droves while winning substantially more, and I think that I think that is the perfect capstone for his career tonight. I really do. You asked me off stream who I thought was going to win it. My apologies for answering the question, but I think that I feel like it's a hard thing to answer because the word probably is probably the more important than the actual selection because realistically it could go either way. It's going to go the way that we've known the Ballon d'Or operates, which is with a little bit of a popularity contest mixed in with a bit of success, which in my opinion would lean it towards Yamal, or it would go to be with who's won the most, who's done the treble, who's had the performances, who's had those moments of magic that the world had watched. You know what I mean? And I think that side of it goes to Ousmane Dembele. So I genuinely feel a 50-50 split on who I think's going to win it because as much as I do believe Dembele deserves it, I want him to win it. I think that he probably will. There's just that side of me that just feels like they're just going to draw for a Mbappe or a Yamal or like someone like that where it makes sense in the long
If it
run.
was
And
Mbappe, it would be
yeah,
there would be outrage.
there would be absolute. Uh, Honestly, we've seen people say like boycott the Ballon d'Or and stuff like that, and I'm pretty sure I can't. What team is it that is boycotting the Ballon d'Or?
Well, I don't. They're not. They weren't doing it. They did it last year. Real Madrid. That's what I was there.
Yeah,
I'd be very surprised if a Real Madrid wins a Ballon d'Or in the next 5, 10 years, no matter how well they play.
yeah.
But I hope they're not boycotting it for a second year in a row because there is no doubt that not a single player in that Real Madrid team deserves to win Ballon d'Or. Ever since Vinny Jr. said, "Oh, we've got to do 90% more," he's been diabolical as well.
All right, yeah. He's come 16th in this one after coming second last year. It's crazy how that's happened, isn't it? But
It's crazy.
yeah, once again, popularity contest is going to override a lot of people's thinking and logic. I really, really do hope for Dembele, though. I really do hope.
Last question I've got on the Ballon d'Or stuff. Where would you put Rafinha? I think we discussed this very briefly earlier, kind of a few weeks ago, but it just seems crazy to me. I mean, I'm not knocking him or anything because I think he's a great player. It just seems crazy to me that a player he was playing as a winger for like relegation battling Leeds 2 years ago, and he's in Ballon d'Or shouts. It's crazy.
Well, I was serving him steak 3 years ago at Fazenda in Leeds, and the guy don't tip, by the way. Just saying, on 100 bags a week. Bit of a mad thing. Him and Junior Firpo tip more than him. Denyard Gnotto tip more than him, and this guy's going Barcelona. But anyways, personal but agenda aside, once he's another little success story. Obviously, I think that that thing more kind of wraps up how far the Ballon d'Or has fallen in terms of like an overall ability level. And back in our day, when I was a kid and we would be talking about the Shevchenkos and the Kakas and even up to the point of Iniestas and Xavis, but Messi is just too good and Ronaldo is just too good. It felt like it was like all of these amazing players in a different time would have won it, but there is just the single greatest football player to have ever braced the pitch living at the very same time as him in argument in battle with the second greatest football player to have ever stepped onto a pitch. So we were blessed with probably the greatest era of football in and around that early 2010s era. But yeah, now to have players that were going from, as you said, relegation battling in the Premier League to getting one transfer over in and around the £50 million mark, normal transfer fee at this point, less than Noni Madueke, and now all of a sudden 2 years later they're in Ballon d'Or conversations because they've looked pretty good for Barcelona. It's just funny how the world works, huh?
It is the butterfly effect in real time. Imagine, bruv, imagine how different life would be if because we were in for Rafinha when he went to Barcelona, and we apparently he'd said yes to us. Barcelona then offered him I don't know whether it was a better contract, but he preferred Barcelona over us. But we were in conversation for Rafinha, and we went for Mudryk instead. How different would life be if we had top five player in the world, Rafinha, on the wing, as long with Neto or Esteval instead of fucking Mikhailo Mudryk? How different that is! Just the one thing the cause and effect, the domino effect is absolutely nuts. But let us know in the comments who you think is going to win the Ballon d'Or. We clearly can't decide between the two of us who is the clear front runner. There are some good shouts, but let us know who you think will win. And we'll finish off, Charms, just very quickly on a quick preview for tomorrow's game against Lincoln. Now, obviously, haven't won a game since we've come back from the international break. Lincoln haven't lost a game in the last six in the league. I think they've won three, drawn three. We've played three, drawn one, lost two. How strong are you expecting Maresca to go tomorrow? Because, before the Man United game, I was thinking this is going to be a great chance to get players like Achimpong, you back on the team, get some of the youngsters minutes. At this point, I say start a full fucking 11.
How far the mighty have fallen, right? But no, I think that realistically it is a chalk and cheese matchup. I think that we got to be somewhat conservative, particularly with the whole injury mambo jambo that's been going on at the moment. I think that there is a revolving wheel of fitness concerns. I wouldn't be surprised if certain nailed on players like Moises, like Caicedo, Cucurella. I wouldn't be surprised if them lot started. I would want that. We need to go ahead and win the game. But once again, players like Joao Pedro, I feel like Mark, you can go and take that role for a minute. I even feel like Malo Gusto could get some game in. You know what Reece James is like, mate. I wouldn't mind him just taking a little touch. Yeah,
Bro, that was one of the things on Sunday as well. Obviously, everybody having to come off because of injuries or subs, whatever. Reece James in those conditions, I was like, this stinks of an 89th minute ACL. And you know what? I don't know if you saw, but when he tried that nonchalant on Patrick Dorgu, and when he went over, I had my head in my hands. I was like, nah, he's torn it. I was like, he's just his legs gone stiff. He's just flopped on the floor. I was like, oh my god, his ACL's popped. Luckily, there's no word of an injury just yet, but yeah, Reece James is one of the players that I definitely expect to be rested tomorrow.
yeah. It's just one of them ones. Rest a few of them. I think that we got a 50-50 it. At the same time, like we need this win. I know it's a crazy statement to say when you're going in against Lincoln, but it is a side who are, for their own respects, playing as well as they can do right now. So all's fair in love and war. I think that this is going to be one of them ones where we got to go out there and battle. And if it is a case of putting a couple of hitters on the bench, bringing them on in the 60th and just giving them 30 minutes to go work their magic, like a Pedro, like these types of players, even a Delap, like if possible, I think that it's time. We got to go ahead and win this game. I don't really care if it's a 1-0, a 2-1, a 3-2. I don't care how cagey it is. Go out there and just get through to the next one.
Yeah, no, agreed. And It was. I was going to prompt the question: is it got to a point where Chelsea should already now be focusing on cup competitions? I'm not really sure if it's just kind of the last week taking a big kind of toll, but I just feel like, echoing what we've said before, I don't think Chelsea can win the league with Robert Sanchez in goal. Now Maresca's going to have even less faith in him. At this point, I'm thinking sink everything that we've got into the Champions League, into those two domestic cups. If we come out of this, of this year with two more trophies and top four, at this point, I think consider that a success.
Yeah, I really do. I really do have faith that we can pull it out of the bag in the Premier League. I don't think anyone bar Liverpool have really looked incredible this season. I think Man City have shown signs of sloppiness. I think Arsenal the same. I think Arsenal for large parts in their game on the weekend.
Pants, bruv.
Look,
Imagine going from corners to long throws as your
yeah,
primary method of attack, bruv.
yeah, it's disgraceful. They're going to be
Oh
hollering up.
six Tony Pulis, bruv.
It's crazy, fam.
Going to
They're
be
going to be.
hollering up Shaw Cross and Robert Hoof, bruv.
Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? Winning those aerial duels, that 6'5" little pole. But fucking yeah, I don't get it. Long gone are the days of Per Mertesacker. I bet they wish they could have him back. But both, yeah, once again, Arsenal and Man City, I think that they've looked pretty flat. Liverpool, the only real side that look like they've got some teeth about them. I like that. It's just I think that we are still in with a chance, but I am substantially less confident than I was at the beginning of the season.
And let's not let you or the people forget, Charms may or may not have tipped Chelsea to win the league. I mean, I went second. I'm not much better, but it's going to take something short of a miracle for that to happen right now, I think. But let
Yeah,
us know in the comments. Is it doable? Can Chelsea pull themselves? Well, 6 points in the grand scheme of things across 33 games.
hey,
Mathematically, it's possible.
I'm just putting it like this, yeah. If Chelsea win the Premier League and Portsmouth come top six, I'll get a grand put into my bank account. So I'm not complaining. And it's I put my money where my mouth is, and I've done the dirty. Let's get this cheese,
Hey,
man.
God's work, man. We can. There's only one person at this point we can leave it up to. Yeah. God bless you, bro. I'm praying for that money to. I'm praying for that to come in because short of prayers, there is no goddamn way. Oh my God, what a bomber. But anyway, let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know, should Chelsea go full strength against Lincoln? Is our priority the domestic trophies this week, this season? Who will win the Ballon d'Or as well? Let us know in the comments. Lamine Yamal, is it going to be Dembele? Is it going to be someone else?
This is the levels we've got to. We're ending our YouTube video with should Rafinha Yamal win the win the Ballon d'Or, and should Chelsea go full strength against Lincoln? Game is gone.
Hey,
The
listen, man. I just don't want to ask
game is
anybody
gone.
about anything previous. I don't want to talk about Man United. I want this to be the last I say the words Man United this week. I want this to be the last I speak of it. I want this game cleared from the back of my memory, bruv. There was a United fan. There's one United fan at work. In 2 years of working at BQ, I have never, ever, ever seen him as chipper as he was today. He has never, ever given as much shit, given as much jokes. He was in the best mood I've ever seen him in today. We did that, bro. This guy has been depressed for over 2 years. His baby has been born. He hasn't even lifted the corners of his lips, bro. But at the weekend, we've got this guy grinning like a Cheshire cat, bro. We cannot keep doing this, man. Brentford, Everton, Fulham, Man United, Chelsea, fix yourself up. Stop giving these bums points. Ah, you know what it is. We'll be back very shortly. You might get some content tomorrow night. If we get this out on a Monday, fingers crossed, you may get some more content tomorrow night for the Lincoln game. Either way, make sure to follow at Two Blues Podcast on the Instagram and the TikTok to keep up to date with everything that we are doing. And we'll see you very soon with some more great Chelsea content. Up the Chelsea.